AAPC family, we are back with another episode of I Am AAPC. I Am AAPC Alex McKinley from the AAPC National Office. And we, with I Am AAPC, are trying to find the stories of AAPC members. And today we have longtime member Gina Piccirilli with us. Gina, hello.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we've known each other for a few years. We've ran into each other at conference.
Couple minutes.
A couple minutes. So tell us, before we dig into your past and the path that Gina took in the business of healthcare, tell us who's Gina now and what does she do? Where does she work? Those sorts of things.
Gina right now is a senior consultant for a company called Granite GRC, Governance Risk Consulting. Governance Risk, yeah. We're basically a company that's out there to enhance revenues, efficiencies, reputations. We focus on compliance, any issues within the practice or the organization that are concerning, they kind of call us. We come in, we do coding audits, we do billing audits, we do compliance audits, risk audits, just to make sure that everybody is on the up and up and they're following current guidelines and, nobody's going to get into any sort of trouble for doing the wrong thing. We also work on the PE side, the private equity side. So if you're thinking of selling your wonderful practice, Alex, for example, you may pull our company in to just or buying a practice to just kind of evaluate what is happening so that you can be confident in the product that either you're selling or you're going to acquire. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I'm hearing lots of compliance and auditing. Is that your background, or tell us about that?
I started off as a receptionist, actually. My main background, I was on the pro side. I was on the pro fee side for a very, very long time. And I realized that I had been doing it a long time and I had no idea about the facility side. So about 6 years ago, I jumped over onto the facility side and I hung around and paddled around in that water for a little bit and then decided it's time to take all of this knowledge into a consulting sort of role so that I can be in every aspect of the revenue cycle in the healthcare organization.
Awesome. Now I see your picture show up on local chapter Facebook group feeds all the time. So I know you're out on the speaking circuit. When you speak at local chapters, what do you speak about usually?
We talk, the one that's been most popular, especially now with COVID, is the networking. There's one that I have that's called Build the Network, Get the Job. And that basically is composed of how to network on social media, and more specifically, now that we are all, relegated home, how to have a presence digitally. We also discuss resume writing skills. I cover resume writing for the new coder, the myths about the A that we all hear about. We cover interview skills, cover letters, all sorts of stuff. And then the other things that I speak about, I also do professionalism, but a lot of the chapters like to hear the revenue cycle presentation because we basically follow the journey of a claim and setting up a pre-authorization platform or a utilization review management platform. You can call it either or, especially now with these healthcare replacement plans, HMOs and things like that. Everybody's requiring authorization, and so many of these organizations are just losing this money because they just don't know any better. It's an ever-changing world in healthcare revenue cycle. So it's hard to stay on top of it, but that's why I'm here. So
that's right. Well, how long have you been an AAPC member for, Gina?
2005. Riley was born in 2004, 2005. 2006.
Okay. All right. So
my number begins with a 010, that many years.
Well, tell us about your path into this career field.
Oh my gosh, it's really, really funny because I started off, I worked in restaurants forever. I loved serving people, being that people person. And I ended up getting a job. I wanted a 9-to-5 job because I was getting tired and I was a mom. And I got a job as a receptionist in a physical therapy office. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then one of the billing companies liked the way I treated the patients there. She was actually a patient, and she was like, you should come over here. I had no idea what I was doing. And I was like, all right, it's a couple extra bucks. So over there I went, and I was strictly data entry. It was it was pathology, strictly data entry, 8830526, 8830526, all day long. And a friend of mine got a certification in coding. And I was like, well, she can do it, I can do it. So I jumped into a coding class and I got my certification, and it was awesome, but I did nothing with it. I didn't do anything with it. I was like, yeah, give me $1 more. And then I changed jobs again because, I needed to make more money, and I went back to the restaurant business. I let everything expire. Came again, the same thing happened. What do they call insanity? Repeating the same thing over and over again.
Right,
I was tired. I had young kids. So I went back into coding, and I was like, I'll just take this test again, because a position had come open. I went in, I had been out of it for about 3 years. I went and I took that test. It was awful. I did terrible. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I honestly thought that I would just be able to go right back in. And I know the books, but it had been too long. So I actually failed it when I took it again to get recertified. I passed it again.
I need to ask, and you can be completely honest, was it the AAPC exam?
Yes.
It was for the CPC.
Yes, the CPC exam.
And we see students all the time in the Facebook group. You see this as well, I'm sure. That struggle of passing the exam. How did you feel? How many times did it take to pass? Like, give us some of your thought process about that.
I had, the first time I took the exam, I had an incredible teacher. Her name was Donna Borhill, and she is just invaluable. And I took that exam and I scored so high. It was wonderful. Then I let it expire. So when I went back to take the exam, because, I am a genius, and I just decided to go in without having touched it. And I think I even brought outdated code books, Alex. It was so bad. I was a little too confident, So I failed it that one time, and then I decided to do something. I studied it. I went back to all of my old notes, to the old guidelines, and I passed it the second time. And I remember saying that day, I was like, I will never, ever let my certification expire again, because I never want to take this test again. These are the worst tests. They're hard, and they should be. And there's so much going on during that exam because you put your heart and soul into it. And I've seen people that have failed it 5, 6 times. The fact that they failed it 5 or 6 times and finally passed it on the 7th, what does that say for that character, right? Those are the people that just have that no quit ambition. Those are my favorite, honestly. I mean, great if you pass it on the first time, but the people that get up and do that test over and over again, they've got, what do you call it? Chutzpah, and such ambition and such drive.
They want it. They want
it so bad. And they're it's terribly disappointing. I know what it feels like to have failed that test. I remember when I took my CPMA, I had the flu and I was very sick. And I was just like, I'm never doing this again. I'm not taking this test. And I'm very hard on myself. I want to get over a 95 on everything I do. I got a 70 on that. I had never been so happy to see a 70. When I posted my pass, I posted my grade too, because I was not at all embarrassed. I was like, that is a pass.
This is on the CPMA exam?
This was on the CPMA. Okay. And then recently I got my CPB, another very difficult exam that I did pass. And I'm just trying to, as you're going through, and I think it's really important, as we're going through these exams and you're getting all of these certifications, which are absolutely fantastic, take the 70. Don't be disappointed in yourself. Take the pass. These tests are hard for a reason. And now I'm just like, now I look at it, I just want to pass. I'm not going to put so much pressure on myself that I have to get this 90. I do shoot for 95 and above in the coursework. That I will admit to. But when I'm on the exam, I just want to pass this exam. I know the material. I just got to let AAPC know that I know the material, and then I'm well on my way and I'm out the door. I'm not saying strive for nothing by all means, but don't put the pressure on yourself to get this incredible score, because these tests, they're difficult for a reason.
Now, was the exam back then similar to how it's set up now, 4 or 5 hours long, basically?
It was, yep, it was 5 hours and 40 minutes, but I think they did breaks. It was different. They did breaks.
Okay.
There were no ADAs or anything like that. And now, what is it? Now it's just 6 hours of a run clock. No, it's 5 hours, 40 minutes still. But they somehow, and that was the only
Just
thing that
changed a
was
little
different. They put in breaks. They're like, anybody gonna go to the bathroom?
Yeah. Well, so you pass the exam that second time, and you're at this point, you're still working in the food industry?
No, I'm back into medical
You're back.
coding. This is
Okay.
when it gets really good. This
Okay.
is when the story gets really great. So now I go to a chapter meeting in Middletown, New York, and there's an auditor there. And I had just received my auditing certification, or I was studying for it. And my sister looks at me and she's like, I don't know why you're not talking at these meetings. You talk all the time. You have so much to say. This is like your thing. You would be good at this. And I'm like, I don't know. So we decided to go to a conference. We went to the Atlantic City Regional Conference. And my first session was with Brenda Edwards. And
Okay.
she was talking about grapefruit. And she came out the gate and it was incredible. And I looked at her and it was like my twin. And I looked at my sister, who has always just pushed and pushed me. And I was like, I'm going to speak at the next conference. I'm going to get so active in this association that, I'm going to make things happen. From then, I decided to spearhead and open a chapter. And what I did, I just became so active within the association. Any networking opportunity I ran at, and even now, now I'm creating those networking opportunities and trying to, utilize the chat box when I'm doing, because I've got about 40 presentations planned for this year at chapters, which is wonderful. That's kind of what I like. I like that about COVID. And I'm like, use the chat box. Anybody in here from orthopedics? I will not get offended. I'm used to seeing side conversations. They happen to a limit, but if you need anything, utilize that chat box and put it in that chat box. This is what we have right now. We can't go table to table like we do at conferences or, meetings. And that was I was missing that a lot during national, but we definitely managed to figure it out. I know the app was very busy, but when I first went on, and now I'm kind of going off, my first chapter board, I completely missed the most important step that I think is very, very, very critical to mention. The first time I was on a chapter board, I was the worst chapter board member on the planet. I was what they call a warm body. I walked into a chapter meeting and they said, oh, Gina's here. You could be our, education officer. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And this is before I had made the decision to be super active. I was terrible. I didn't care. I thought I was doing them a favor by being part of this board, and I was not a good board member. And it was during that term that I was thinking, well, why, yeah, it's voluntary. It's completely and totally voluntary. But if you're going to sit here and do a terrible job, Gina, why are you volunteering? And I had this epiphany during that term. And I felt terrible. And I think that's why I feel the need to give back as much as I possibly can to AAPC. For that reason, and for the reason that I wouldn't be sitting in this chair. I wouldn't be sitting with you. I wouldn't have my dream job if not for the AAPC and the members, because there is so much opportunity. You just have to grab it and you got to go.
I wanted to talk more about why you should serve for local chapters and maybe in the AAPCCA board of directors. But first, I want you to share a little bit about your evolution career-wise. So you've had these positions to dip your toes in the water a little bit, and then we know where you are now. But what did your career path look like? So normal,
like that.
normal for
anybody.
Anybody.
That. Oh, I would apply for jobs that I knew I wasn't qualified for. I would apply for jobs that I knew I didn't have the experience, and I would hope to win them over in the interview, because I know personally that I can learn anything. I will take a task and I will learn it. I only allowed the hiring manager to keep me from applying when they said, no, your qualifications don't count. And that's what I try to apply for everything. So I applied for a job as a project manager with a billing company. I got it. And I ended up being that was my first somewhat management position. Before that, I was not just a biller, but I was only doing the billing rev cycle side of things. And that was it. From the time I took that project manager position, I realized that I had kind of a knack for leadership. And I was good at my job, but I continued to learn and like fester and attend meetings and read anything that was coming out on whatever, specific topic that I was dealing with at that moment. And I took a project manager position. Another position became available. Oh, I should note that all of my jobs have come from AAPC contacts.
Oh, wow.
Every single one of them.
That gives me goosebumps.
Came from AAPC contacts. Wow. My last job came from an AAPC contact. And now I'm working side by side with her, Joette Derricks. I'm sure you recognize the name, and I'm working elbow to elbow with someone from a professional, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm being mentored by one of the best in the business. And it still gives me the goosies a little bit, because sometimes I look around and I'm like, what am I doing here? I remember when I sat on my first panel at HealthCon and Mike Misko is over here and, Rhonda's there and all these people that I'm used to watching, and I'm just sitting on this panel thinking, why am I here? And I said the same thing to Mike, because I was very, very nervous. And I was like, I don't understand why they invited me to be on the panel. And he said, because you know what you're talking about. Let's go, and that was it. And I was like, oh, right. This is amazing. You're right. I do belong here. I absolutely do. But every job that I've gotten was through an AAPC contact, or they saw something, they went to a session or listened to a meeting or anything like that. Every single one of them.
When we see newly certified members talk about the challenges of finding their first job on social media, we often just strongly encourage them to attend their chapter meetings, network, find out who the coders are in their local area. Do you have anything to add to that, Gina?
Start from the bottom. Get in the door. You got to get in the house, because if you're not in the house, and I have a really good story about that as well. If they don't know you're there, but it's really hard to jump in at the top level. And when you're a certified professional coder, that's your level, right? So you're immediately leaping right for the top. And unfortunately, the world doesn't work that way. And you have to prove yourself. And the only way that you can really do that, unless you get lucky, and we do get lucky, it happens, is starting at the bottom. I hired a girl. There was a girl that was hired in the kitchen of the hospital that I was working previously. And she took the job in the hospital. We were sitting there, we were talking, and she says, well, I just graduated this medical billing class. And I'm like, which one? She was like, it was online through the AAPC. And I said, really? I was ordering a ham and grilled cheese with ham or something. So I said, what are you doing here? And she said, I have to get in. And she started making grilled cheese sandwiches. She made grilled cheese sandwiches for about 6 months until I stole her, but sometimes
you knew her. You said there's a relationship there.
Exactly. She used to make my grilled cheese sandwiches, and when we had this conversation, I admired her, her grit. Who wants to make grilled cheese sandwiches? But talk about starting, on the lower floor. She was like, she applied for security. She applied for everything, but that's how she got in. And she is one of the main coders. Now, wow. She did very, very well. So don't be afraid to start at the bottom. Don't be afraid of data entry. Don't be afraid at front desk. Who's going to get that first offer? Who's going to be the first to know that somebody from your billing office went elsewhere? It's going to be us in the office. And then you can slowly start to prove yourself. And you have to let the overseers know what you're capable of too, which is very, very important, because the resume comes, we interview, the resume goes. Sometimes they need a little reminder of what you're doing, where you are, what your knowledge base is, that sort of thing. So don't be afraid to start at the bottom. That's probably the best advice that I can give. And just have reality about what's going to happen. There's a lot of jobs out there, but there's a lot more of us coming out than there are jobs, you know, and that would be the best piece of advice that I could give. Just get in the door, get in the door.
It's so awesome to hear that your path has been not led. I mean, you've made your choices, but it's been guided by great AAPC members who you know and have built those same relationships with.
It's amazing. I'm so grateful. So grateful.
So you spoke about taking a position at your local chapter as education officer, and you're like, oh, why am I doing this? No passion when you first did that.
Nothing.
What lit your fire, Gina?
Personally, I was feeling like a real failure to the chapter at one point, because I wish I could remember exactly what happened. Oh, that's what it was. So I'm very, very transparent about I wrote about it in Healthcare Business Monthly about, you know, I just think it's important because you can recover from that.
Yes.
You can recover from a bad decision that you made or a tougher time in your life. There was an AAPC exam. Oh my gosh, don't be mad at me. There was an AAPC exam and I was supposed to host it or proctor it. I was second proctor, and it was my niece's graduation. And I remember being so upset that they weren't going to find another proctor for me, because and then I started, after that experience, a friend that was in the chapter, she covered the exam for me. And after that experience, I was like, there were so many people that studied for this exam and they were coming to this exam. What if I didn't show up? What would I be? And that was it. That was my turning point. When I thought about disappointing someone else because of my own selfishness, it really got to me, because that's not the type of person I am. I've probably now proctored 843 exams since then, trying to make peace.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, the test did go on. Somebody covered it for me, but chapter boards don't need a warm body. They need somebody with some passion and who cares. And that's the way I feel about our members. Our members are my family. I am always available to answer emails, things like that, because one, it's fun and it's quite fulfilling. It's absolutely fulfilling. I love to be able to empower others, give them just that, you know, that vote of confidence or pat on the back that they need. You know, that goes back to my restaurant days. I'm a people girl. I like people. So, and then from then on, my entire world changed. I started handling everything differently. My home life, my work life. It's like, stop being selfish. This isn't about you. This is about other people. And if I'm making my decisions based on, you know, the successes of others around me, they're all going to be good decisions, because it's definitely not going to be a bad decision on my part.
And you served on the local level and eventually chose to take the leap into the national level. So tell us about your national volunteer service.
Best experience of my life. I was on the Chapter Association Board of Directors from 2017 until 2020. What year is it? Oh, I lost the COVID year. That gave me the opportunity to truly dive in and mix it up with the members. And get to know the national side of AAPC and exactly what goes on, you know, and to become friends with you, Alex.
That's right.
You know, to really dig into what our mission is. And the mission of the Chapter Association is to support our local chapters. And there are so many wonderful chapter boards out there that are doing excellent things for their members, that there's over 500 of them. So it's hard for national to kind of keep an eye on them, and they can get lost on the shuffle. But with the BOD in place, we can make sure that doesn't happen. And we try to being able to assist them in any way to be successful and create free CEU opportunities, job opportunities, networking opportunities for those members. It's such a fulfilling thing to do.
And I know there are many, like you said, over 500 local chapters. Some are thriving and have great unity and a lot of energy. And there are some who they may just be in their infancy and trying to get traction. It's when you go to an AAPC national conference, you really feel that connection with the members. And I know you can have that experience with the local chapter, but when was your first health
It was
con?
Atlantic City. It was Atlantic City in 2017. And I had just opened the Ellenville, New York chapter. So I had cards and I was running around to everybody asking them to like my Facebook page and, and I ended up with so many contacts from there.
Wow.
It was amazing.
And how will this experience that you've had direct your evolution going forward, Gina? What do you see in your sights in the horizon?
I feel like I'm kind of, you know what? I'm not going to say that I'm content where I am right now, but as long as I'm doing this kind of work, I'm going to be really happy. But something that gives me that personal sort of really super warm feeling is being able to develop outside of myself. I can develop myself fine, but to be able to help somebody achieve greatness, whether it be with a job or write a perfect resume or create a webinar presentation or speak in front of a chapter for the first time, being able to help people put things on their resume that are ultimately going to make them so successful, that is the best. And when I get emails from people, when I told them, just go for the job, let them decide whether you're qualified or not, that they got the job, or I finally am speaking, I was selected to speak at the national, things like that. It gives me the warm and fuzzies. Because I think as leaders, whether it be with the AAPC, your job, or in your home, we need to develop, like with our kids, we're developing our children to be good humans and to be productive members of society. And I think as leaders, it's important for us to take the time to make sure that the person that is striving, we're assisting them and helping them get to where they want to be. That's the best.
Awesome.
That's the best feeling.
Well, you mentioned that you have the CPC and the CPMA. Do you have any other certifications?
I just got the CPB in October. Worst test I ever took. That was the hardest.
Tough, huh? Really?
That was the hardest. Yes, because it was like a math. It was a lot of I compared it to a math equation. There would be like 6 questions based on one thing, and if you messed up the beginning, the rest of the questions would be wrong. It was really difficult. Good job, AAPC. Good job.
That's a professional biller certification.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. It was tough. The coursework was fantastic. Got a 98 on it, but but that exam was tough. They're all tough, but they're tough for a reason. I get it. I get it. I don't know what certification I'm going to go for next. I know it's going to be something, and for a silly reason, Colleen Giannatasio is going to be our NAB president, and I want her signature on one of my certificates. So I haven't, I haven't exactly figured it out, but I'm definitely gonna figure. I don't know. Maybe whoever watches this, let me know what should be next. What should be next?
That's right.
Pick my certification. Don't pick CIC. I don't want to take that.
No. Well, Gina, as we conclude, what would you have to say to anybody looking to take this step into healthcare and medical coding and the business side of healthcare?
We're always going to be around. Healthcare is always going to be here. There are always, unfortunately, going to be sick people. So you'll always have a job. And I think it's just very, very important to have realistic expectations on becoming certified, what the next steps are. And if you utilize a network and become active, and it doesn't take a lot of time to become active, it's going to allow many, many more doors to open.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Now, Gina, would you just conclude and just give us a IAmAAPC?
IAmAAPC.
Beautiful. All right. Thanks, Gina. Thanks for your time, and thanks for everybody for watching, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Alex. Bye, everybody.